My people, what's happening? It's Andre with AndreReese. Got to clear my throat. .biz. All right, guys. I'm out here for another PsychoCast. We're trying to make this happen out here on a Saturday morning, trying to get it in before we got to get stuff going for the rest of the day. So let me just let you guys know real quick what we're going to talk about today. I got 4 topics, then we'll jump into the B-roll or other news. So today we're going to talk about I'm the king of making the ordinary look extraordinary. So I say that from time to time in my videos. I'm going to talk to you guys about that and what that means. I'm also I'm a one-man business. So I do everything for my tax and accounting practice and retail business, and I'll tell you the benefits and the reasons why I chose to do it that way. And the next 2 topics, let's talk about, does your life suck because you don't have any men in your life? Good morning. You know, so that can be, and this is more or less, that's going to be kind of targeted towards the ladies and the females. And the last thing I'll talk about today is getting lowballs on eBay, kind of like a tactic that you can use to try to deal with that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So here we are. It's Saturday morning, about 7:37. I think I got up today around 5-ish or so. I made the decision I was gonna go ahead and ride now instead of trying to do it later. We got some other stuff going on this afternoon. Marilyn's got some stuff that she's got to do. I'm gonna have a period of time where I'm at home, so I figured I'll go ahead and get this out the way and I'll work on the other stuff I need to do later on. And so when I left, I think the temperature said it was like 55, 56. But what I usually do is, who cares what the temperature says? You know, I'll either open the back patio door and stick my head out and see how it feels, or once I get downstairs to the garage, I've got a ton of clothes that are hanging up that are dedicated for bike riding. So I'll step outside the garage door threshold, see how the temperature is, and I'll plan my outfit accordingly. So even though it was like 55 degrees is what it said, it actually feels fairly reasonable. It kind of feels like a mid to upper 60s. You know, so I'm not sure if that's because of the amount of moisture content in the air. I didn't go into that detail, but it feels pretty good out here. You know, so very excited to be out here riding today. I'm gonna do my my 15-mile route, which is, you know, like I said, I start out in Jackson, start at home, go through Jackson Ward. I just went through downtown, and now I'm over in, I thought they said yesterday, Carytown is actually Churchill. I'll ride down the hill, get to the Capitol Trail, and then head on over to Bell Island and do the loop back there. So it's a really nice ride, and looking forward to it today. And yeah, so that's what, and I think in other news, I think it's still dad and grad season right now. We went to graduation yesterday. Nephew, he graduated, so he's moving on to the next level and going to high school. So it was nice to see him and the other crew that he has there at school graduate. So, you know, a brother's always about recognizing achievements, so shout out to him as well as all the other graduates that are out there on this planet Earth. And I think that's it. That's it for the other news, or the B-roll. So let's go ahead and jump right into the topic. So the first topic is, I am the king of making the ordinary look extraordinary. You know, so and I do that all through social media. Everything is planned and scripted and well thought out. And what I've essentially, and I'll tell you guys what the secret of it is as we get there in a minute. But so something happened the other day. I don't remember what it was. I think it was something that was happening with the current administration. People were just like going crazy online. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head right now, but they were going crazy. They were blowing up. I think it might have been related to what's going on in the White House right now. They've been releasing drone footage of the ballroom, and they've also been releasing footage of the arc that's being built on the White House lawn. So of course everything is going to be partisan divided, and so if you haven't been paying attention, Trump tore down the previous ballroom that they had. He's in the process now of building another one. And, there's arguments on both sides, as to why he should or shouldn't do it. I'm not here to dispute either one. So each person that has a dissenting opinion, they deserve their flowers on this one, And with the 250-year celebration of the U.S. that's coming, they want to make this the biggest celebration on earth of any kind when it comes to celebrating the birth of a nation. So they've been planning this now for well over a year, and there's a number of different events that they have scheduled, and one of them is they're going to be doing a cage match on the front lawn. So they're in the process of building the octagon right now and the arc, and like I said, people right now are in a tizzy. They are upset, and it's just wild. So I always say this, at this point now, there's only about 2.5 years left in this man's administration. So, and Trump's administration. So, and folks have pretty much put their lives on pause to try to fight the power, so to speak. And respect, I get it. Brother's not tripping on that at all. Everybody has the right to do what they want to do. But a lot of people have arrested their lives because of it. And it's starting to really show. And so I think what had happened was they were talking about this, people were really blowing up. And I was like, in the last 2 years, which is almost here, what have I done with my life? And I'm like, have I let this affect me one way or another? I'm like, no, I haven't. And I said, well, what's the proof of that? So I was actually in my photos on my iPhone, and I just started scrolling backwards for like 2 years, and a lot of the stuff that I've done, that we've done together as a couple, a lot of it I haven't even posted anything about it at all, and so you guys have seen a very curated perspective of things that happen in my life, and happen in our lives. And so, when you see that curated perspective, you might be thinking, wow, this guy right here is living his best life, and which I am. I'm not gonna say that I'm not. And I talk to a lot of people all the time, whether it's clients or friends, and I've had people all over the years say like, hey, keep it up, keep doing what you do. I'm right there with you guys. One day I'll be able to live my best life also as well. And I always tell them, I say, you can start living your best life now. And I tell them, I say, hey, I am the king of making the ordinary look extraordinary. So I could do something like go to a free concert in the park and post about that. And it's like, damn, Dre's out here living his best life. And all I did was just went to the garage, grabbed a lawn chair, threw it in the back of the car, and found out that there was a free event that's taking place, and then turned around and went to the event and took some good pictures, and some good angles, you know, and then curated it together and matched that up with some repetitive language in my post and posted that, and it's like, wow, Dre's out here living his best life. And so here's the thing, you know, I am the king of making the ordinary look extraordinary. And so what is the ordinary? The ordinary is just, you should have a good life. Everybody deserves to have a good life. And if you are not having a good life, you have to make some hard and difficult changes. You might have to completely do a 180. You might have to go back to school and retool. You know, you might have to give up, you know, that fancy car for a bucket for a while in order to be able to make some things happen. So, you know, these are all things that we're all capable of doing, you know. And so, like I said, that type of stuff, reorientating your life and making changes and adjusting things, that's all ordinary. That is just a part of life, you know. So you kind of get what I'm saying here. All I'm doing is just ordinary stuff in life, you know. And sometimes the destinations may take me someplace else, but the majority of, like for example, this year we really haven't traveled hardly at all. I think we went on the cruise in February for Valentine's Day. That was epic. And we've now reorientated our life around Virgin Cruise Line, you know, if we're gonna go on a cruise, you know. And I just took a lot of great pictures and a lot of great angles and shot video and content, and you know, so it's just ordinary stuff. People go on cruises all the time. You know, there's nothing special about going on a cruise, you know. And if you are low on money and low on cash, there are super budget cruise lines out here where you can get on a ship for 2 or 3 days for a couple $100s and have the time of your life, and a lot of people do, you know. So it's not that big of a deal, you know. And you probably won't ever catch me on a yacht unless somebody that we know invites us to come. That's it. It's not gonna happen at all. You know, I'm not gonna ever spend that much money to get on a yacht, you know. And it goes that same way for even flying on a plane. You know, and if you think about it this way, folks that are well off, very wealthy, they'll fly on private. Private is expensive as far as multiple tens of thousands of dollars per flight hour, you know, to get from point A to point B. If you fly private, your efforts are frictionless. You get to the airport or the private airport, whatever it might be, or the low volume airport, there's a name for them, I forget what it is. And you walk right out, get on the plane, they're already waiting for you, everything's gassed up, ready to go, and they fly, you know, and you get to where you need to be, you get off the plane, you're good to go. And so somebody to fly from New York to California, you know, San Diego maybe, it might cost $120,000, $150,000 to fly private, you know, but you can oftentimes find tickets for $300 to get from coast to coast. So in the end, you know, flying is flying, you know, and so it's the amount of friction that that folks that are better off or well off, they don't have to necessarily deal with, and it's at the highest end, you know, but in the end, they're still flying on a plane. They're not getting in some magical device and teleporting in 2 seconds, you know, and so you have to kind of keep things in perspective that way. And so with me, you're not ever going to see me on private unless I somehow get an opportunity to fly on somebody else's dime, you know. I'm just not going to spend the money to be able to do that, you know. But I fly enough where I have consolidated all of my efforts with one airline, and I figured out a way for them to reward me for my loyalty. So oftentimes when I do fly, I book the most basic seat because I have status. I get to sit in the middle front of the plane, which is the preferred area, economy plus. and depending upon the route, you know, and then how successful they were at selling seats, I oftentimes get uploaded, I get upgraded. So I will oftentimes, you know, post pictures of me flying, you know, getting on the plane first, you know, being in the lounge. I got a credit card that provides that opportunity, you know, and so with the angles and the stories, and a lot of times I'll kind of like partially make up something that's kind of funny. You know, that's the creative side of me coming out. You know, when you see these things, you're like, wow, homeboy, or they're living their best life, and all we're doing is doing what everybody else is doing. We're just going from point A to point B. And so what makes things look extraordinary is when you remove friction out of your life that a lot of people are experiencing, you know. So, and good morning, how you doing?
Good morning.
Yeah, and so, yeah, so those are kind of some things you got to keep in mind, you know. So as you look at folks, you look at people, and their life looks extraordinary, just realize they're doing things essentially the way you are. And the reason why I do post anything at all, like I said, 99.99% of what I post is for business. And so it's all designed to be marketing. It's all designed to increase my client count. You know, so that's what these things do that I post. And so, and how does that help? Well, the clients that I'm after, these are the kind of things that they do in their life. You know, they fly, they go on vacation, you know, they go on cruises, they do international stuff, you know. So by me doing these things, it allows me to, on your left, by me doing these things, it allows me to create content that's specifically designed to attract clients. You know, and so one of the biggest things I do right now that's regular, I get out here and do these cyclecasts, you know, and I'm not doing anything that's unusual or unique. You know, people get out here every day and they ride their bicycle. And you can see as I'm riding out here behind me, there's folks that are walking, folks that are running. There's people out here that can be on a bicycle also as well. And there's nothing special about what I do. But the one thing that makes it look extraordinary is I have a mount on my bike that allows me to film. And the filming, you can see what's happening behind me. The backdrop of the city is just fantastic. It's beautiful. And so that adds to making this ordinary thing that I'm doing look extremely extraordinary. So what's the moral of the story here? So let me get up here to the top. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is there are ordinary things that can happen in life that you can do, and they are absolutely extraordinary. And so don't think that you have to be at a point in your life where everything is financially in place. You know, you've gotten everything that you need to have done, get accomplished. You know, it doesn't have to be at that level. There's enough things that are happening every day in the world that you can do for free. You know, and a lot of times just your presence and being involved in things is priceless. And the fact that you can actually do those things, you know, and be there for other people when they need it, that is the exceptional and wonderful privilege. So let me get up here real quick. So yeah, guys, I am the king of making the ordinary look extraordinary. And keep in mind that these are things that you guys can do. And I challenge everybody to go back and look at your, whatever it is. If you're a heavy poster on social media, you know, hey, go back and do a 2-year audit of your life and see, are you on track and doing what you need to do? And if you're not, you can immediately make some changes starting today or Monday that will get you on track to where you need to be. And if you don't have social media, you know, everybody's got a camera reel on their phone. Go back and look through your camera reel for the last couple years and see what you've done. And if you haven't really done anything at all, there's nothing that's meaningful, you haven't taken any pictures at all, you know, like I said, everybody's allowed to have a life that they want to have, you know, so don't think in any kind of way. What I do is advice on what you should do. So you have to figure out what that is and make it happen. But I think the majority of people, you know, no matter what socioeconomic background they have, they want to be out doing things and enjoying life, because we'll all get to a point one day where we can't really do it anymore. And those memories is what's going to carry us as our lives come to the close. So, you know, you want to make sure you don't have any regrets. I don't. And I realize now that being 58, the chances of me living to be 116 are pretty slim. So that's one other thing that motivates me as well, to try to make every day count and do something that's extraordinary, that's simply just ordinary, you know. And these are things that you guys can do as well. So that's my challenge to everybody out here right now. You guys can also become the king or the queen of making the ordinary look extraordinary. So let's go ahead and lock that one down. We're done. Let's jump on to the next topic. So the next topic is I am a one-man business. And so people ask me all the time, you know, are you looking to build a big practice and scale and all that? No, I'm not. I'm happy with what I have. I'm very, very content. And I've had help and assistance before in the past. And where I am right now, I'm very satisfied. So everything in my business, I'm 100% responsible for. But most importantly, I'm 100% responsible for my clients' information, their data, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can't necessarily just, you know, and I think people realize this, you know, I have folks' social security numbers, their names, I got their addresses, you know, a lot of times they call in, give me credit cards, I got all that stuff. And most importantly, a lot of folks want direct deposit, and I've got account names, I've got routing numbers, account numbers. So I have the ability to do damage. And people have before in the past, you know, not me, but other people that have called themselves the professionals. They've taken advantage of their clients. And I never want to be that guy, you know. So one, I have to always be very cautious of who I have around me. And this happens as you go up the chain in life and the world, and you have to always be careful with who you have around you. So in these type of sensitive situations, you know, I have to always be careful about who I have around me. And so I have had people before in the past that I trusted and really trust, you know, but as far as where I am right now, I'm happy with the structure. So when you look at AndreReese.Biz, everything from all the financial decisions, all the way down to the marketing, my website, all my videos, I do everything myself, you know, and I can easily pay somebody else to do that. And I think a lot of times too, what ends up happening is folks, if you are in business for yourself, you're doing something that the majority of Americans can't do. And if you, and there's different levels to the game, of course. You can be somebody that is partially self-employed, where some of your money comes in from self-employment. You can still be in the W-2 matrix, nothing wrong with that. But it's very difficult for somebody to come up with a strategy and a path to success where they are 100% self-sustained by their business. You know, there's very few people that are able to achieve that milestone. I've been able to do that. I've only got a few clients that have been able to truly do that. A lot of them have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. A lot of people are happy with that arrangement because, you know, they prefer to have a W-2 job, and then at some point when it's time to retire, they've already got something they're working on and they'll put their efforts into that then. So it's like one of those personal things. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to these things, you know. And so here I am out here trying to make it happen. And like I said, I do everything myself. And so, I tell you, I enjoy the marketing. I enjoy doing the accounting. I enjoy dealing with my clients. You know, I enjoy the process of trying to improve and become more efficient so that I don't have to have people help me. And the thing is, oftentimes when folks are on their own and they're doing work all by themselves, folks that are kind of jealous, or they are, you know, non-supportive, they'll make little digs at you and say like, oh, you're in business for yourself. How many people do you have work? Oh, you don't have anybody work. Oh, so all you did was create a job for yourself. No, like I said, everybody has to decide what they want to do. And you have to be cautious and aware of people's true intentions and how a sneak diss, you know, or a backhanded compliment can essentially hide or try to mask what how they really truly feel about you. And so, like I said, I let people know proudly I'm in business for myself. I can hire somebody else if I want to. I choose not to. I love everything I do. I'm passionate about all the projects. And when you take, and I know you will, when you go and look at my stuff, all that stuff and that creativity and the shine that is on everything that I do, I came up with it. I created it and I did it. And so if I decided, and this is why I decided not to ever expand beyond where I am right now. And where I am right now with 300 clients, that's comfortable. And what's happening over time is sometimes some of the lower cost clients will fall out. And the clients I get that come in now, they all got a lot of stuff that's going on. So where before, when I was first starting out, I might have to have, you know, 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 clients that would equal one of the returns now, you know. So I can actually do less time in the tank and earn the same amount, if not more. And so that is definitely an advantage, you know. And so if somebody comes in brand new and I charge $1,500 to do their tax return because of the complexity, at one time down the road, I might have charged like $300 for that tax return. So in theory, that's 5 clients that equals 1. And so I would rather put my energy and effort into marketing towards the higher end of the tax spectrum than trying to cram as many people as possible on the low end. And if I had the same amount of clients I have now, and I only charge like $100, that's only like what, $30,000 for the year. You can't do anything with that. And you know, it's very difficult to try to live on something like that. And so if you're able to charge $1,000 per client, you got 300 clients, you can do the math. That's like 300 grand, you know, for the same amount of effort and work. So that's what I prefer to do in my quest, is try to market towards the upper end. And when people come sniffing around, I got all my prices on my website. That way people can naturally select themselves out of the process. And you know, if they want a deal, they want a discount, I'm not the guy that can help them, because I can't, if somebody wants an 80%, let's say a 20% discount, they want to go from $1,000 down to $800. Well, that's kind of an unfair exchange, because they're not allowing me to give them 80% of the effort. You know, they still expect me to do 100% of the effort. And so if people can't respect that, they can't appreciate that, then we can't do business together at all. And I wish them well. If things change in the future, come back, but that's kind of how and where I stand. And then ultimately, in this, you know, it's one of those situations where, you know, and there's two things here I'll talk about. So one is, if I get a heavy inflow of business, I always have a low-cost alternative that can help me. And so all I got to do is just take data that I have and for my clients, run it through the Whopper, which is the computer from war games, and it will create an XML file that I can upload into my tax returns, and I can do the work. And so if I had other people that are working, there's an hourly rate or a percentage of the amount that I charge that I got to pay out. And or I can use this option. It only costs pennies per page. You know, so if I have somebody that gives me 30 pages and they charge me like 10 cents a page, that's like $3, you know. But so like I said, if I ever get into a crunch, I can always utilize this method, you know, for expansion. I don't use it anymore, but it's there on standby. I've used it at different times in my life, but with me expanding towards the upper end of the market and charging quite a bit more for the returns, I do have the time to be able to run the whole show. And of course, I do have times where things are a little bit difficult, and you know, I've got to put in a lot of hours, but those times generally are few and far between. You know, so yeah, so that's the reason why I do that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is that, let's say, for example, let me make it very simple. Just use a simple number. Let's say I earn $100,000 a year as a tax business. And let's say I end up spending $50,000 in expenses. I got $50,000 that's left over. So now if I hire somebody to come into my business, you know, I technically, and I still want to make the same $50,000, I might have to pay this person that I bring in 50 grand. So I'm at $100,000 right now before, spend 50 grand, and then I have $50,000 that's left over for me. If I decide to bring somebody on and pay them the 50 grand, my expenses now are $100,000. So I got 50,000 in expenses, I got 50,000 I'm paying them, that's 100 grand. So if I want to earn the same 50 grand into my pocket, I got to bring in $150,000 worth of revenue, you know. And so, and every time you go up in revenue, it's not linear, you know, so oftentimes things are exponential. There may be economies of scale, but there's costs that you have to incur. And so you figure at a minimum, if everything is constant, I got to bring in $150,000 in revenue. Now let's say, for example, that person that I have decides they want to leave, and I've essentially built a machine around them. So I'm going to have to go out and try to find somebody else to replace them. And this person might want $65,000 or $60,000. So the thing is, I have to constantly keep ratcheting up the business significantly in order to be able to make payroll and try to keep things the way they were. And I've talked to a lot of people before in the past, when they've expanded, their costs have gone up, and they have now not only their self they have to worry about, they've got the lives of other people that are working for them. And a lot of times, especially with small businesses, large businesses like Microsoft or Amazon, somebody leaves, they are unaffected. That machine keeps on cranking, but a small business is a lot different. You know, so if you're a small business owner and you lose somebody that's critical, it can take you a long time to find somebody else. The quality of the work that you produce, because you built a machine around an additional person, you know, can can be devastating to try to keep things going. And so you can end up working super long hours, longer than you've ever worked before in the past. And you can end up, suffering health-wise and your relationships and your family can also suffer as well because you don't have the time to have them around. And then once you finally do find somebody, a lot of times you'll make the best choice of saying, okay, you're the best that I can get right now, so let me just go ahead and roll with that. And you don't take the time to do the effort and the due diligence to make sure that they really truly do fit within the scope of what you're doing. And a lot of times you can end up on the backside of things being even worse, And so I've seen all these things happen with clients. I've seen all these things happen just in general with businesses. And me personally, I choose to have things be a one-man show. Now, if I have clients that want to expand and grow and bring on people, I tell them the positives and the negatives. And I tell them what the choke points are. That way they can focus on those things to make sure that they have the most success as possible. And the other thing too is where the business load I have right now and the amount of time that I have, it allows me to have my life that I do, to do the ordinary things that look extraordinary. And I'm not willing to give those things up. So when you run into people these days that have a very straightforward life, they're running a business by themselves, or you're a person that's doing this, and people want to soft diss and soft criticize you, you got to remember that you're doing something that they have never been able to do in their life, and they don't know how to, and they resent you because you're able to do things that they can never do. And so whatever it is in life that you do, whether it's get an education or work a certain job or decide to go on an exercise plan, do all these things for yourself. And I think they got something going on over here, so I don't think I can go through here. Let me go back this other way. They're probably going to do a run or something. Let me go back over here. So decide what is best for you and do that. And don't let other people make you feel that because you decided to do something and you're not doing it their way, that you pretty much suck as a person. So don't even think about that at all. So let's go ahead and wrap that subject up and let's get into the next one here. And the question is, does your life suck because you don't have men in your life? And like I said, this is directed more towards the ladies in the here, more so than the fellows. Because the fellas, actually it applies to everybody. But what I'm doing here today is more or less just talking about, how this might apply directly to ladies. And so, like I said, there is no universal answer for this question. I'll leave it up to you to decide what's good for you and what's not good for you. But I would have to say that everybody, us men, we have an incredible importance in this life, especially when it comes to raising daughters and, being there for the women in our lives. There's always a perspective on life that we have that other folks don't have, And I see examples all the time. How you doing? I see examples all the time where people don't have men in their life. And there's many, many things I've gone through in my life where I've been around ladies and females that don't have men in their lives. And some things that they do, can incredibly suffer because of that. An example, something simple that happened last week. So we went out to, this was Memorial Day weekend. I think it was Friday or maybe Saturday. We went down the street, we walked to a concert that they had going on. And that day it was cold, it was raining on and off. We still went anyway. And we brought our lawn chairs, me and Marilyn, and we were cool. And so at the venue that we were at, they have umbrellas that are out there, and so with the umbrellas, you open those up and you can use those to help keep out the shade. But in this case, it was to help keep out the rain. So it started to rain and missed a little bit. What happens with sisters when it starts to rain? How you doing? My people, we often will, pull out the umbrella real quick, or, put on a hat or a jacket to kind of keep everything from, physically appealing and not succumbing to the effects of water. All good. This is something that we do as a people. It's cultural, And so, as it started to rain, how you doing? There was a group of ladies that were, how you doing? There was a group of ladies that were sitting in the chair, the table right next to us. And so they went and jumped up and tried to open up the umbrella. And they were struggling with this umbrella, trying to open it. And I wasn't paying too much attention to it. And I looked over at some point and was like, well, why aren't they able to push this up? And I saw up on top that it's like one of those string weighted ones, and they couldn't make it happen. And then typically if you open up an umbrella, a lot of times you can push it up and put a pin in it. It didn't have this as an option. And besides, it's at an outdoor venue and a gazillion people have used it over the years. And so they're struggling with it. And this kind of went on for about a minute. And I said, at first, I'm not gonna do anything at all. And then eventually I stood up and walked over and assessed the situation based upon what I had already noticed. And I saw that the string was broken and there was gonna be no support. So I quick rigged a way to make the umbrella stay open. So I ended up pushing the umbrella up, and I used the string that was there. I pulled on it, the whole string came out. And I used the string to tie itself I tried to use the bottom part of the umbrella to tie it to the top of the umbrella, the metal structure. Then I tied it into place with a knot. And so at that moment, the umbrella stayed open. And the ladies thanked me. They thanked me profusely and they appreciated it. And I think I might even say, well, that's why y'all need a man in your life. They might have even laughed and giggled at that, and then I went and sat down. And then so throughout the show, I periodically look over and monitor the umbrella situation, and it was solid. It didn't slip, it stayed open. There was no risk of the whole thing collapsing and falling apart onto them. So, all good. And I'll tell you, having and not all men are created equal. And so there are blue collar brothers, then there are white collar brothers, and then there are the rare exception, which are hybrid brothers. And so I'm more considered to be a hybrid brother. In theory, I'm a white collar brother. I don't work every day with my hands. If I do, it's just typing on a keyboard. Most of the stuff I do is mind-based and conversation-based. But you have other brothers that are skill-based, blue-collar brothers. They're the ones that are electricians, they're plumbers, they're involved in construction, handyman day-to-day. They can be out on the street. And these are things that women can do also as well. So, don't try to crucify me on that, but this is just an example we're using today. And so they do a lot more things that are manual labor based, And so, but typically what happens is when you end up with and I see this on TikTok all the time. What's happening, man? A number of ladies will say, hey, get you a blue collar man, and they might be a successful, woman or whatever, and their man is putting together IKEA stands and, tearing down walls and building things, And I'll tell you, I've been in that situation before. And the problem is, how you doing? A lot of times, those kind of brothers are not appreciated. And so, but they're highly sought after. And those are the ones that you're gonna find on the weekend at Home Depot, working on a project, doing honeydews, that type of stuff. So a lot of times, those brothers are not appreciated, the blue collar ones. And then so the white collar brothers, I'll tell you, in my life, I'd say 99% of the brothers I know and people I know that are strictly white collar brothers, they can't even hang a picture on a wall. They don't have those skills at all. You know, they couldn't put together an IKEA stand, and if they did, it would take a week, and when they're done, it's wobbly and the whole thing falls apart. And so, nothing wrong with that at all, because in the household, you know, just if you live in a house, you got a big ass yard, you don't have to be the one out there cutting the grass on the weekend. You can hire somebody to do it and then oversee the process and then turn around and pay them. Nothing wrong with that at all. You know what the final product looks like. A lot of managers are the same way. They don't know how to do what the people in the middle or the bottom do. They could just look at it and say, that looks about right. Good morning. And say that's all good. And so that's the same thing within the house. And so you might have a brother that don't know how to, you know, unclog a toilet, but he knows who to call to come do it. And so there's a mutual admiration and respect amongst brothers that know how to do both sides. So the blue collar brothers look up to the white collar brothers because a lot of times they provide work, and then the white collar brothers look up to the blue collar ones because they can do something that they can't do that they should know how to do. And a lot of white collar brothers don't know how to grill. You know, they don't know how to they couldn't use a barbecue grill if their life depended on it. But blue collar brothers, they have seasonings, they got gumption. So, like I said, I am one of the rare exceptions because I'm a white collar brother, but I can do all the blue collar stuff. I can fix stuff, I could create things, I can build things, and these things all started when I was a young kid. You know, so where I am right now in my life, it's all good, no big deal. And so getting back to the subject, so that's kind of the basis of the argument that we're talking about here. And so do women benefit by having men in their life, and does it show a lot of times when they don't? Absolutely. And us guys, that there's different ways that, there's actually this is a gaggle of people right here coming. And it shows and creates, pops up all the time in relationships and decisions. And I even see it with my clients, you know, where a lot of them, you know, will get involved in things and they shouldn't. That can be anywhere from people. Good morning. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Whole gaggle of people. Good morning.
Morning, morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so, you know, they will make decisions, get involved in things, get involved with men, you know, that if they would have had somebody that was, good morning, that was a fella, they can run things by them. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Distance 10.0 miles. Duration 1 hours, 4 minutes, and 31 seconds.
So let me get through here real quick. Okay. Hang on a second. All right. Hey, what's happening? All right. So looking good here. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of things that they could do. And I talk to my daughter all the time, and she'll ask me questions about stuff. I give her the male perspective. And sometimes she's like, that's not fair, that's not right. I'm like, you know what, Amber, that's the world. The world is not fair, doesn't care about you. And there's a gazillion examples of people that tried to do things and prove that it wasn't true, and they have failed, and they're stuck with lifelong decisions that they made based upon what they felt. And in the end, you know, it is what it is. It turned out to be what it was. So, you know, I encourage all the ladies out there to be able to find people that you can trust. And this is the thing, I tell my daughter all the time, I said, our relationship right now is one where, you know, having a father in your life, I'm the one relationship that's not going to ever expect anything from you physically, you know, or have hopes of that. And so I am a neutral vessel. I operate within your best interest. I'm not saying you're not going to find anybody out there in the world that's like that, but this is the purest relationship that you're going to be able to find, you know, in your life without having any expectations of receiving anything at all. So I said, take advantage of it. And then when she starts telling me sometimes about things that are happening, you know, the first thing I ask her, I say, hey, does your friend have a dad in her life? I said, okay. Well, I said, remember, you have a dad. You don't have to go and do these things because everybody else is doing it, you know? And so, you know, and like I said, I encourage, and I talked about this before, I encourage everybody right now that is a fella and a man, you know, to make sure that the ladies around you are okay. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, ladies, you know, utilize me. You know, and I have clients all the time that call me to ask me questions. A lot of them don't ask me questions when they should. You know, and I always encourage them after we're trying to deal with the aftermath of decisions. I'm like, hey, you can always reach out to me and talk. I'm non-judgmental. And my goal is just to make sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision for yourself. And so ladies, if you don't have anybody to talk to at all, and you need someone to talk to, you need a male perspective, and you're not a client, reach out to me. You can book a consultation for about $195 for about an hour, and we can talk about your situation, whatever it might be, whether it's tax, accounting, business, life-related, you know, finances, etc., children, family, whatever, legacy, and I'll be able to provide you with an unbiased opinion on what you should do without judgment, and that's what I'm definitely here for. So that's it. I'm getting down to last little bit of time. Let's go ahead and talk on the last topic here, which is lowball offers on eBay. So as you guys know, I've been selling on eBay now for almost a decade, you know, and now I have roughly about 3,500 items that are listed, and I got another maybe 500 in my death pile that I got to get up. And so part of selling on eBay is that you get a choice of selling stuff that's at a particular price that's fixed, or you can offer people the option to make offers. So I'd say the majority of people that I deal with, they'll pay full price or they'll make a reasonable offer. And I've got parameters set where if the offer is reasonable, it automatically accept it. And if it's in another range, it'll let me know. I can negotiate back and forth or choose to decline. And then there's super low ball offers that if I have an item that's $100, somebody offers me $1 for it, it automatically declines it. Doesn't even waste my time. If somebody offered me $90 for a $100 item, it'll automatically accept it. If somebody offers me $50, you know, it'll push it to me for me to either accept it, decline it, you know, or say, well, maybe I'll take 75 for it, kind of a thing. And so the nature of the beast is that folks, there's a certain set of people out there that don't want to pay anything for anything. I get it. Yeah, hey, no judgment. You know, I want to try to get the best deal as much as possible. But a lot of things that I sell, most of them, matter of fact, they're what they call long tail items. They are few and far between. They're hard to find. And the value of them technically gets higher and higher every day, especially if it's a new item, because of the scarcity of the item. So folks will oftentimes lowball me, and they'll be above the 20% automatic rejection. So a $100 item, they might offer me 21 bucks. And so it'll flow to me. So what I typically do with these lowball offers, I evaluate them and I look at what the selling price is and where the price came in. And if somebody gives me $21, I'm like, there's no way in the world we're gonna do business. I'm not mad, I'm not upset, I'm not going on any forums trying to flame these people. I just decline it. And then a lot of times they'll turn around and offer me 22 bucks. Then I'll decline it. Then they'll turn around and offer me 21 again. Or they might go 21, 22, 23. then go back to 21 and be like, well, I'm not gonna offer you such a high price anymore. I just decline those things. And so sometimes somebody might offer me a $30 offer on a $100 item, and I'll decline it. Then they'll send me a text message and say, hey, what's the lowest that you'll accept? I'm like, well, in my mind, it's like, what's the highest that you're willing to pay? And if it's $35, we can't do business. So what I'll do is I'll text them back and say, hey, go ahead and make your highest offer, and we'll go from there. And so sometimes I might come in and do $33 or $39, a little bit higher. And I'm like, can't do anything, sorry guys. And I let it go. So I don't ever get into the point where I'm trying to flame these people. I'm trying to teach them a lesson. I'm trying to explain that they're cheap and they're not taking into consideration my costs. I try to keep things as frictionless as possible. If somebody's being unreasonable and they're not acting in good faith, I don't want those people as my customer, because I have a very, 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 very teeny tiny return rate on my stuff. And I'm not willing to deal with somebody that doesn't respect what I have and the rareness of it and try to lowball me on it and have them become a customer. So, and the other thing I realize is that if I've got an item that's been listed for a while and I haven't sold it, and then all of a sudden I start getting lowball offers on it, all the time I list my stuff way higher than everybody else. And I realize that the supply of items has dwindled. And so people are trying to lowball me on my item, maybe because they're a reseller, they want to get it low and turn around and sell it high, or that's just where the market is right now. They're just trying to acquire it. So I'm like, if I start getting interest on something that is been sitting for a long time, I know 9 times out of 10 that within the next month, somebody will come along and buy it for close to the full price. And so that's what I do when it comes to lowball offers. So, you know, like I said, don't get upset about them. Don't get bent back, and just realize that sometimes these are things that are showing the direction that the market is going, you know, and just keep your cool and keep moving. You're not required to do business with everybody on this planet. So that's it, guys. I'm out of time for today. I want to thank you for tuning in for another Cyclecast. I think I'm going to try to be out here tomorrow again. I appreciate you guys. Take care. Peace. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay. My brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.